The December rain hammered against the windows of the small ranch house on Maple Street as Nathan Evans checked his watch for the third time in 10 minutes. His shift at County General's Emergency Department should have ended an hour ago, but a multi-car pileup on the interstate had kept him late. Now, pulling into his driveway at nearly 8 o'clock, he could see the Christmas lights he'd strung up last weekend glowing through the downpour, making the house look warm and inviting despite the storm. Inside, his 6-year-old son Jason was sprawled on the living room floor, pushing toy cars across the hardwood with sound effects that filled the house. The boy looked up when Nathan entered, his face splitting into a grin. "Dad, you're home. Mom said you got stuck at the hospital again." Nathan scooped him up, ignoring the protest from his lower back. 12 years in the Army as a combat medic, followed by 5 years in emergency medicine, had left their mark. "Sorry, buddy. Big accident on the highway. Everyone okay now, though? Did you save people?" Jason's eyes went wide with that particular brand of hero worship that simultaneously embarrassed and motivated Nathan. "The whole team did. That's how it works." He set Jason down and ruffled his dark hair, noticing again how pale the boy looked. "You feeling all right? You look tired." "I'm okay. Just have a little headache." Nicole Evans emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. At 32, she still had the same warm smile that had caught Nathan's attention 8 years ago at a community college fundraiser. But lately, he'd noticed tension around her eyes, a tightness in her shoulders that hadn't been there before. "Hey," she said, crossing to kiss him. "Rough day, MVA. 3 critical, 2 stable. We got them all through." He lowered his voice. "Jason said he has a headache again. That's the 3rd time this week." Nicole's expression flickered with concern before she smoothed it away. "I know. I made a pediatrician appointment for next week. He's probably just tired from all the Christmas excitement. Mom's been bringing him those children's vitamins to help boost his immune system." Nathan felt his jaw tighten at the mention of Loretta Dodson. His mother-in-law had never approved of him, had made that clear from day one. The fact that Nicole still called her mom with such automatic deference, even after everything Loretta had said and done, sometimes felt like a small betrayal. "Right?" he said, keeping his voice neutral. "The vitamins." Nicole caught the tone. "Nathan, please. She's trying. You know how she is, but she loves Jason. She just wants to help." He wanted to argue that Loretta's version of help usually came with strings attached, but Jason was watching them with that worried look kids get when they sense tension between their parents. Nathan forced a smile. "I know. How about we have some dinner? I'm starving." Later that night, after Jason was in bed, Nathan sat at the kitchen table with Nicole, nursing a beer while she went through the mail. The rain had stopped, leaving the world outside clean and cold. "Victor called," Nicole said without looking up from a Christmas card. "He's confirmed for Christmas Eve. His flight gets in around 2. Nathan perked up. "That's great. Haven't seen him in almost a year." Victor Welch had served with Nathan in Afghanistan, a chemistry genius who'd somehow ended up in combat medicine before transitioning to toxicology after his discharge. They kept in touch through the years, though Victor's work at a pharmaceutical research facility in Boston meant visits were rare. Having him for Christmas would be good. "Mom's coming too," Nicole added, still not meeting his eyes. "She wants to spend Christmas Eve with us. She'll head home Christmas morning to visit Aunt Patricia." Nathan took a long pull from his beer. "Okay, Nathan." I said okay. He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Look, I know you want your mom to be part of Jason's life. I get it. I just wish she could accept that you chose me, that we're a family. It's been 8 years. Nicole's eyes glistened. "She's getting better. You have to admit that. She barely even makes those comments about your background anymore." Nathan's background was code for the fact that he'd grown up in foster care after his parents died in a house fire when he was 7. No family money, no connections, just a kid who'd scraped his way through life until the Army gave him purpose and direction. Loretta Dodson, widow of a successful real estate developer, had made it abundantly clear that her daughter deserved better than a man with no pedigree. "Sure," Nathan said. "She's a model of acceptance now." They went to bed without resolving anything, because there was nothing to resolve. This was their reality, had been since the day Nathan had proposed to Nicole despite Loretta's vocal opposition. The wedding had been tense, with Loretta making her disapproval known to anyone who would listen. But Nicole had stood by him, and that had been enough. Lying in the darkness, Nathan listened to his wife's breathing even out as she fell asleep. His mind wouldn't settle. Jason's headaches bothered him more than he'd let on. The boy had also been more tired lately, sometimes falling asleep after school when he used to have boundless energy. Nathan had noticed it over the past 2 months, a gradual decline that was subtle enough to miss day-to-day, but obvious when he thought back to September. He'd check Jason's vitamin bottle tomorrow, see what exactly Loretta had been giving him. Probably just overpriced supplement from some health food store, but it wouldn't hurt to verify. Better safe than sorry, his old drill sergeant used to say. The thought nagged at him as he finally drifted off. The next morning was Saturday, and Nathan woke to find Jason already up, watching cartoons in the living room. He looked better in the daylight, more color in his cheeks, though when Nathan asked how he felt, the boy mentioned his head still hurt a little. "Where are those vitamins Grandma gave you?" Nathan asked, keeping his tone casual. "In the bathroom. The gummy ones. They're pretty good actually." Nathan found the bottle in the medicine cabinet, a cheerful label proclaiming Junior Strength Multivitamins with a smiling sun character. The brand looked legitimate, sold at major retailers. He relaxed slightly, then checked the ingredients anyway. Standard stuff. Vitamin C, D, B-complex, zinc. Nothing unusual. Maybe he was being paranoid. Still, he took a photo of the label and texted it to Victor. "These look okay to you?" Loretta's been giving them to Jason. The reply came 20 minutes later. Standard formula. "Should be fine." "Why, what's wrong?" "Jason's been having headaches, fatigue." "Probably nothing. See you Tuesday. Keep an eye on it. Let me know if it gets worse." Nathan spent the day doing Christmas prep with Jason, putting up the last of the decorations, baking cookies that turn out slightly burned but edible. Nicole was at work, pulling a weekend shift at the accounting firm where she'd been promoted to senior analyst last year. Loretta called twice, both times asking to speak with Jason, both times keeping Nathan on the phone for barely 10 seconds before demanding her grandson. By the time Nicole got home at 6, Nathan had worked himself into a state of controlled irritation. "Your mother called," he said, perhaps more sharply than intended. Nicole sighed, dropping her purse on the counter. And she acts like I'm the babysitter she has to tolerate to speak with Jason. 8 years, Nicole. 8 years of this. I know it's hard, but she's alone now. Dad died 3 years ago, and she doesn't have anyone else. Jason's her only grandchild. Nathan bit back the response that Loretta's loneliness wasn't his problem, especially when she'd gone out of her way to make him feel unwelcome in his own family. Instead, he changed the subject. How was work? They moved through the evening in the careful dance they'd perfected, avoiding the minefield of Loretta Dodson while maintaining the appearance of domestic harmony. Jason seemed brighter after dinner, playing with his Legos until bedtime. Maybe the headaches were just a phase, Nathan thought. Kids went through things. But Sunday brought another headache, this one bad enough that Jason threw up his breakfast. Nathan's concern ratcheted up several notches. He made a note to call the pediatrician first thing Monday, appointment or not. Monday morning, Nathan was pulling a double shift to cover for a colleague on vacation, so Nicole took Jason to school. The boy seemed better by then, no headache, and he bounded out of the car with his usual energy. Nicole texted Nathan updates throughout the day. Jason was fine, eating well at lunch, playing with friends at recess. When Nathan finally got home Tuesday afternoon, exhausted from back-to-back emergency cases, he found Nicole in a state of controlled excitement. "Victor landed," she said. "I'm picking him up in an hour. Mom's coming around 6 with dinner. She wants to help cook for Christmas Eve tomorrow." Nathan's exhaustion made him less diplomatic than usual. "Great. A whole evening of Loretta." "Please," Nicole said, and there was real pleading in her voice. "Please just try. For Jason. For me. It's Christmas." He relented, as he always did when she looked at him like that. "Fine. I'll be nice." Victor Welch arrived in a rental car at 4:30, a tall, lean man with graying temples and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He'd gained a few pounds since his army days, but he still moved with the economy of motion that marked him as former military. Nathan met him on the driveway, and they embraced with the unself-conscious affection of men who'd seen combat together. "You look old," Victor said, grinning. "You look fat," Nathan shot back. "Married to my lab these days. You know how it is." Victor grabbed his bag from the trunk. "How's the family?" "Good. Jason's excited to see Uncle Victor. Nicole's inside. We're having a command performance tonight, though. Mother-in-law's coming for dinner." Victor's expression shifted to sympathetic understanding. "The infamous Loretta Dodson. I've heard the stories. Wait till you meet her. Stories don't do it justice." Inside, Jason launched himself at Victor with a shriek of delight. The two had met before, when Jason was 3, and Victor had won the boy over with magic tricks and terrible jokes. They fell into easy banter, while Nathan helped Nicole prepare the guest room. "He seems good," Nicole said quietly as they changed the sheets. "A little tired maybe, but good." "I'm still calling the pediatrician tomorrow," Nathan said. "Those headaches worry me." "I know. Me too." Loretta Dodson arrived at 6:15 in her silver Mercedes, a tall, elegant woman in her late 50s with perfectly styled blonde hair and a wardrobe that probably cost more than Nathan's truck. She swept in with bags of groceries and an air of proprietary ownership, kissing Jason effusively while barely acknowledging Nathan. "Nicole, darling, you look exhausted," Loretta said, managing to make it sound like an accusation. "Are you getting enough rest? I worry about you working so hard." "I'm fine, Mom. You remember I mentioned Victor Welch? Nathan's friend from the service." Loretta's smile didn't reach her eyes as she shook Victor's hand. "Of course. Nicole told me you're some kind of scientist." "Toxicologist," Victor said pleasantly. "I work in pharmaceutical research." "How fascinating." Loretta's tone suggested it was anything but. She turned to Jason. "And how's my favorite boy? Grandma brought you something special." She produced a bag from her purse, and Jason's eyes lit up. "Cookies. Homemade just for you. And I brought your vitamins. Have you been taking them every day like I said?" "Yes, Grandma." Nathan watched this exchange with growing discomfort he couldn't quite name. Something about the way Loretta emphasized the vitamins, the way she watched Jason with such intense focus, set off alarm bells in his head. But he pushed the feeling down. He was being paranoid, seeing threats where there were none. Dinner was tense despite everyone's efforts. Loretta dominated the conversation, sharing stories from her volunteer work at the country club charity board, dropping names of local politicians and business leaders she knew. She asked Victor polite questions about his work, but clearly wasn't interested in the answers. When Nathan mentioned a particularly difficult save he'd made at the hospital, Loretta changed the subject within 30 seconds. By the time dessert rolled around, Nathan was ready for the evening to end. But Loretta lingered, insisting on helping with dishes, asking Nicole about Christmas Day plans, making small talk that felt like territorial marking. It was nearly 9 when she finally left, kissing Jason goodbye with the admonition to sleep well, darling, and take your vitamin before bed. After she was gone, the house seemed to exhale. Victor helped Nathan clean up the kitchen while Nicole put Jason to bed. "She's exactly as advertised," Victor said, scraping plates. "Sorry, man. You get used to it." "Mostly." Nathan loaded the dishwasher with more force than necessary. "Nicole keeps hoping she'll come around, except me. I don't see it happening. She seems pretty invested in Jason." "Yeah, only good thing I've ever done, apparently. Give her a grandkid." They finished cleaning in companionable silence. Later, sitting on the back porch with beers despite the cold, Victor brought up the vitamins. "Those gummies Loretta mentioned. Same ones you sent me the photo of." "Yeah, why?" "Just struck me as odd, the way she emphasized them. Like she was checking up." "Probably nothing." Nathan had thought the same thing, but hearing it from someone else made it feel less paranoid. "Jason's been having headaches. Fatigue. I'm taking him to the doctor this week." "Good call. Could be anything. Growing pains, stress, even just the change in routine with school." Victor paused. "But keep an eye on it. Trust your gut." Nathan's gut had kept him alive in Kandahar and saved countless patients in the ER. Right now, it was telling him something was wrong. He just couldn't pinpoint what. Christmas Eve dawned bright and cold, the kind of crystalline winter day that made everything look like a postcard. Nathan woke early, unable to shake the sense of unease that had settled over him. He found Jason in the living room, already awake, staring at the presents under the tree with the focused intensity only a 6-year-old on Christmas Eve could muster. "Morning, buddy. How you feeling?" "Good." Jason bounced up. "Is it Christmas yet?" "Almost." "You sleep okay?" "Yeah, but I'm tired. Can I take one of Grandma's vitamins? She said they give me energy." Something cold slid down Nathan's spine. "When did Grandma say that?" "Last night when she tucked me in. She said to take one every night this week, and I'd feel much better." Nathan kept his voice calm. "Let's wait on the vitamin this morning. I want to check with the doctor first. Okay? We got a big day ahead." Jason shrugged, easily distracted by the promise of presents and festivities. But Nathan's unease crystallized into something sharper. He found Nicole in the kitchen making coffee. "Did your mother go into Jason's room last night?" Nicole looked up, surprised. "She tucked him in, yeah." "Why?" "She told him to take the vitamins every night this week. Specifically told him they'd make him feel better. So, she's been giving him vitamins for weeks now. What's the problem?" Nathan struggled to articulate the wrongness he felt. "I don't know. Something's off. Why would she emphasize it like that? Why every night this week specifically?" Nicole's expression shifted from confused to defensive. "Because she cares about her grandson, Nathan. Because she wants him to be healthy. Why do you always have to make her actions seem sinister?" "I'm not." "Yes, you are. You've never given her a chance. She makes an effort, brings vitamins to help Jason, and you turn it into some kind of conspiracy." Nicole's voice rose. "She's my mother, Nathan. The only parent I have left. Can't you just accept that she's trying?" They stared at each other across the kitchen island, years of accumulated grievances hanging in the air between them. Finally, Nathan backed down. "You're right. I'm sorry. I'm probably just tired." But he didn't believe it, and from the look in Nicole's eyes, she didn't either. The day proceeded in a blur of activity. Victor joined them for a big breakfast. Then they all went to the community center for the annual Christmas Eve lunch, a tradition Nicole's family had maintained for years. Loretta held court among the other volunteers, introducing Jason around with obvious pride while barely acknowledging Nathan's presence. Back home by 3, they started dinner preparations. Loretta took over the kitchen with the efficiency of a general commanding troops, assigning tasks and critiquing execution. Nathan retreated to the living room with Victor and Jason, playing board games while Christmas music filled the house. At 7, they sat down to dinner. The meal was impressive, Nathan had to admit. Loretta had outdone herself with a spread that belonged in a magazine. Herb-roasted turkey, homemade cranberry sauce, 3 types of potatoes, green beans, almondine, fresh rolls. Jason's eyes went wide at the feast. "This is amazing, Grandma." Loretta beamed. "Only the best for my special boy. Now eat up. You need your strength." They made it through dinner with minimal tension, the Christmas spirit providing a buffer against old wounds. Jason was animated, telling stories from school, excited about presents and Santa's impending arrival. For a few hours, they almost felt like a normal family. But as bedtime approached, Nathan noticed Jason yawning more frequently. By 8:30, the boy could barely keep his eyes open. "Someone's ready for bed," Nicole said, smiling. "Santa won't come if you're awake." "But I'm not even sleepy," Jason protested through a massive yawn. Loretta stood. "Let me tuck you in, darling. I brought something special to help you sleep so Santa can come." Nathan's instinct screamed. "What do you mean? Help him sleep?" Loretta's smile was saccharine. "Just his vitamin, Nathan. Calm down. The bottle says it promotes restful sleep. I thought it would be perfect for Christmas Eve." She pulled a gummy from the bottle in her purse, holding it out to Jason. "Here, sweetheart. Take this before bed. It'll help you have sweet dreams." Victor, who'd been clearing dishes, suddenly went still. "Can I see that bottle?" Everyone turned to look at him. Loretta's smile tightened. "I'm sorry, the vitamin bottle. I'd like to see it." Victor's voice was pleasant but firm, and Nathan recognized the tone from their army days. Something was wrong. "I don't see why." "Please." Victor held out his hand. Loretta, cornered by social expectation, handed over the bottle. Victor examined it carefully, turning it to read the label. Then he unscrewed the cap and poured several gummies into his palm. Nathan watched his friend's face drain of color. Nathan, Victor said quietly. Take Jason upstairs. Now. What? What? Now. The command voice, sharp and urgent. Victor grabbed Jason's hand. Buddy, did you take one of these today? No, last night. Uh-huh. Grandma said. Spit it out. Victor pulled Jason's mouth open, checking. When? What time? Nathan was moving now, his combat medic training kicking in even as his mind struggled to process. Victor, what's happening? These aren't vitamins. Victor was already on his phone, dialing 911. Nathan, get the bottle he took it from. Every bottle. And check Jason's pupils. Now. The room erupted into chaos. Nicole screamed questions. Loretta went white, backing toward the door. Nathan grabbed Jason, tilting his head back to check his eyes. The pupils were slightly dilated but responsive. Jason, how do you feel? Tired. My head hurts a little. Victor was speaking rapidly into the phone. 6-year-old male, approximately 20 kilograms. Ingestion of what appears to be diphenhydramine, possibly combined with a sedative hypnotic. Unknown quantity. Last dose approximately 24 hours ago. Patient is alert but drowsy. He rattled off the address. I need immediate transport. Someone tell me what's happening. Nicole's voice cracked with panic. Nathan was tearing through the bathroom, finding the vitamin bottle, checking the label. It looked identical to the one Loretta had just given Victor. But Victor wouldn't react like this unless. These aren't the same, Victor said, showing both bottles side by side. Look, the label's the same, but the color of the gummies is different. The legitimate ones are bright. These, he held up the one from Loretta's purse, are darker. And look at the consistency. Nathan stared. Victor was right. The difference was subtle, barely noticeable unless you compared them directly. What are they? My best guess. Diphenhydramine at a high dose, possibly combined with something else. Basically, she's been drugging him. The acute dose she tried to give him tonight could have been dangerous, especially combined with chronic exposure. Jesus Christ. Victor turned to Loretta, and his voice was ice. How long? How long have you been poisoning this child? Loretta's face was ashen, but her eyes darted toward the door. I don't know what you're talking about. Those are just vitamins. You're making a mistake. The hell I am. I analyze compounds for a living. These are not vitamins. Victor held up the bottle from Loretta's purse. Nathan, bag this as evidence. Don't let her leave. Nathan moved to block the door, his mind reeling. His mother-in-law had been poisoning his son. The woman Nicole defended, trusted, loved. The woman who'd been coming to their house, bringing gifts, getting close to Jason. Nicole was crying, holding Jason, her world visibly collapsing. Mom, please tell me this isn't true. Please. Loretta straightened her spine, and for a moment, Nathan saw something cold and calculating in her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by injured dignity. I'm being falsely accused. Those are vitamins I bought at the health food store. If there's something wrong with them, it's the manufacturer's fault, not mine. I would never hurt my grandson. Never. Sirens cut through the night, growing closer. Jason started to cry, frightened by the adults' panic and shouting. Nathan scooped him up, speaking softly. It's okay, buddy. You're okay. The ambulance is just coming to check you out. Make sure you're all right. The paramedics arrived within minutes. Nathan knew one of them from the hospital, Steve Bullock, a solid medic who listened carefully as Victor explained the situation. They took Jason's vitals, started in 4, loaded him into the ambulance. I'm going with him, Nathan said. Me too, Nicole sobbed. I'll follow in my car, Victor said. I'm bringing both bottles, and I'm calling the police. Mrs. Dodson, I strongly suggest you stay here and cooperate with the authorities. Loretta was already moving toward her Mercedes. I'm calling my lawyer. This is defamation. You'll all regret this. At the hospital, they rushed Jason to the pediatric ER. Nathan's colleagues recognized him, worked faster. They drew blood, ran tests, pushed fluids. Jason was scared, but stable, his vital signs good. The acute exposure had been caught in time. Dr. Andrew Benson, a pediatrician Nathan respected, reviewed the preliminary results. The good news is he's going to be fine from tonight's exposure. You caught it early. He paused, his expression grave. The bad news, is that his blood work shows markers consistent with chronic poisoning. Elevated liver enzymes, unusual metabolite patterns. How long has he been taking these vitamins? Nicole, pale and shaking, answered in a whisper. 2 months. Maybe a little more. My mother brought them in October. Said they'd help with his immune system before flu season. And the symptoms started when, around the same time, Nathan said, the pieces clicking into place with horrible clarity. Headaches, fatigue, occasional nausea. We thought it was stress from school. Dr. Benson nodded grimly. We're going to run a full tox screen, check for organ damage. I've already called Child Protective Services and the police. This is a criminal matter. 2 uniformed officers arrived within the hour, taking statements. Victor had bagged the bottles, maintained chain of custody like the careful scientist he was. The evidence was solid. 1 bottle contained legitimate children's vitamins. The other contained something else entirely, something designed to mimic vitamins, but deliver a very different payload. We'll need to test these at the lab, Officer Chris Maldonado said, carefully labeling the bags. But based on what your friend here is saying, this is attempted poisoning. Where's the grandmother now? She left, Nathan said. Probably at home, calling her lawyer. We'll pay her a visit. In the meantime, does anyone have any idea why she'd do this? Any motive? Nathan and Nicole looked at each other. Nicole's eyes were red from crying, her face blotchy and devastated. She never wanted us to get married, she said softly. Never thought Nathan was good enough. But I can't believe my own mother. We're going to need detailed statements from all of you, Maldonado said. But first, let's make sure your son is stable. We'll have officers here overnight just to be safe. Jason was admitted for observation. The doctors wanted to monitor him, make sure the acute exposure didn't cause delayed effects. Nathan sat by his bedside while Nicole curled in the chair, alternating between crying and staring blankly at the wall. Victor pulled Nathan aside around midnight. I've been thinking about this. The level of planning involved, the fake bottles, the long timeline. This wasn't impulsive. She's been planning this for months. But why? Nathan felt numb, exhausted. What was the endgame? That's what we need to figure out. Because people don't poison children without a reason, and I don't buy that she was just trying to make him sick out of spite. There's something bigger here. They were about to find out just how much bigger. The next morning, Christmas Day, felt surreal. Jason was awake and alert, asking for breakfast and wondering why he was in the hospital instead of opening presents at home. They'd managed to bring a few gifts from the house, trying to maintain some normalcy for a 6-year-old who didn't understand why Grandma's vitamins had made everyone so scared. Detective Dwight Savage arrived at 9, a heavy-set man with tired eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He'd been called, and despite the holiday, because of the severity of the case. Lab results came back fast, he said, pulling up a chair in Jason's room. The boy was watching cartoons, oblivious to the adult conversation. Your friend was right. Those gummies from Mrs. Dodson's purse contained high doses of diphenhydramine and doxylamine, both sedative antihistamines. At the dose she was giving him, prolonged use could have caused serious neurological problems, potentially permanent damage. The acute dose she tried to give him last night could have been fatal, especially for a child his size. Nicole made a sound like a wounded animal. Nathan put his arm around her, but she pulled away. We searched Mrs. Dodson's home this morning, Savage continued. Found some interesting things. More bottles of the fake vitamins, a journal documenting Jason's symptoms and your parenting, lots of photos. Also found correspondence with a Dr. Scott Ford, a psychiatrist who apparently was ready to testify that Jason showed signs of abuse and neglect. What? Nathan's voice was sharp. We've never taken Jason to a psychiatrist. He's never been abused. Dr. Ford's license was suspended last year for ethics violations. Looks like Mrs. Dodson was paying him to provide expert testimony. We also found emails between her and a family law attorney, Brett Harris. They were building a custody case. The picture was becoming clearer. It was worse than Nathan had imagined. She was trying to take Jason away from us. That's what it looks like. The plan seems to be poison Jason to create symptoms of chronic illness and behavioral problems, document those problems, blame you two for neglect or abuse, use her connections and money to build a custody case, get Jason taken away. She had a whole network set up. Dr. Ford was going to say Jason was being emotionally abused. Mr. Harris had a friendly judge lined up. She probably figured with her wealth and social standing versus your background. Savage glanced at his notes. Foster care, military, working class job. She'd win. Nathan felt rage building in his chest, hot and dangerous. 8 years of subtle digs, of being made to feel inferior, of having his love for his son questioned. And all along, Loretta had been planning this. Poisoning Jason, his son, their child. Where is she now? He asked, struggling to keep his voice level. Released on bail 2 hours ago. $250,000 cash. She's got good lawyers' connections. But we got solid evidence, and the DA is taking this seriously. Child endangerment, attempted poisoning, conspiracy. She's looking at serious time. Looking at. Nathan stood. She poisoned my son for months. She tried to kill him last night. She should be in prison, not out on bail. I understand your anger, Mr. Evans. But the system has to run its course. We've got a strong case. She's not going anywhere. But Nathan wasn't so sure. Loretta Dodson was wealthy, connected, and clearly willing to go to extreme lengths. He didn't trust the system to handle this. Not when she'd already set up corrupt doctors and friendly judges. After Savage left, Nicole finally broke down completely. I can't believe this. I can't believe my own mother tried to hurt Jason. To take him from us. How could I not have seen it? She fooled everyone, Nathan said, but he was thinking about all the times his instincts had warned him, all the times he dismissed his gut feeling as paranoia or prejudice. Victor appeared in the doorway with coffee and sandwiches. Jason's getting discharged this afternoon. Doctors say he'll make a full recovery, no permanent damage. You guys caught it just in time. Because of you, Nathan said. If you hadn't been there, if you hadn't asked to see that bottle. Victor shook his head. I did what anyone would do. But Nathan, we need to talk. There's something else. They stepped into the hallway, leaving Nicole with Jason. Victor pulled out his phone, showing Nathan photos he'd taken at Loretta's house during the police search. I went with them as the toxicology expert. Found these in her office. He swiped through images of documents. Medical records for someone named Richard Dodson. Nicole's father. Yeah, he died 3 years ago. Heart attack, I think Nicole said. Look at the symptoms in the months before he died. Fatigue, confusion, muscle weakness, cardiac arrhythmia. Now, look at the coroner's report. Nathan read, his blood going cold. Acute myocardial infarction secondary to electrolyte imbalance. They attributed it to a previously undiagnosed heart condition. But look at the potassium and magnesium levels. They're consistent with chronic poisoning by cardiac glycosides. I bet anything if they exhumed the body and ran a proper tox screen, they'd find evidence of long-term exposure to something like digitalis. Nathan stared at his friend. You're saying she killed her husband too? I'm saying it's worth investigating. The symptom pattern is similar to what she was doing to Jason. Chronic poisoning designed to look like natural illness. And look at this. Victor showed another photo. Her husband's life insurance policy. $2 million. The scope of Loretta's crimes was staggering. Not just attempted murder of her grandson, but potentially murder of her husband. And she'd almost gotten away with it. Does Savage know? I showed him. He's calling in the cold case unit. They're going to exhume Richard Dodson's body. Nathan looked through the window at his son, his wife, his family that had come so close to being destroyed. She can't get away with this. Any of it. She won't. The evidence is solid. But Nathan was already thinking ahead. Loretta had money, lawyers, connections. The justice system was fallible, especially for the wealthy. He'd seen it before, during his time as a medic, and now, in the ER, rich people getting away with things that would put poor people in prison for life. He needed to make sure Loretta Dodson faced real consequences. Not just jail time that she might reduce with good lawyers, but complete and total destruction of a life she'd built on lies and manipulation. And he knew exactly how to do it. Over the next week, Jason recovered at home while Nathan and Nicole tried to piece their lives back together. The story had leaked to the media, and suddenly they were local news. Wealthy socialite accused of poisoning grandson, ran on every channel. Loretta's carefully cultivated reputation was in tatters. But she fought back. Her lawyers released statements claiming the poisoning was accidental, that she'd been given bad vitamins by a health food store, that she was the real victim here. They portrayed her as a grieving grandmother being persecuted by an ungrateful son-in-law who'd always resented her. Some people, especially in her social circle, seemed to believe it. The preliminary hearing was set for mid-January. The DA assured them they had a strong case, but Nathan could see the worry in the prosecutor's eyes. Rich defendants with good lawyers could do a lot of damage to even solid cases. Meanwhile, Victor had returned to Boston but stayed in close contact. The exhumation of Richard Dotson's body had been approved, and the re-autopsy was underway. Initial results suggested Victor's suspicions were correct. High levels of cardiac glycosides in tissue samples that had been preserved. Loretta had almost certainly murdered her husband. Nicole was devastated, withdrawn. She'd barely spoken in days, moving through the house like a ghost. Nathan tried to reach her, but she'd built walls he couldn't penetrate. Her mother had poisoned her son, possibly murdered her father. The betrayal was too massive to process. On New Year's Eve, Nathan sat in his home office, going through documents. Jason was asleep. Nicole was in bed, or pretending to be. Victor had sent him copies of everything they'd found at Loretta's house, and Nathan had spent the week studying it all, looking for patterns. What he found was damning. Loretta had been meticulous in her planning. The journal documented not just Jason's symptoms, but also Nathan's parenting, with entries twisted to suggest neglect. Photos showed Jason looking tired or unhappy, carefully curated to support a narrative of abuse. She'd been building this case for at least 6 months, possibly longer. But there were other things too. Financial records showing large cash withdrawals, payments to Dr. Ford and Attorney Harris, communications with other people in what appeared to be a broader network. Loretta hadn't just been planning to take Jason. She'd been planning to destroy Nathan completely, get him potentially charged with child abuse, ruin his career and reputation. And she'd done similar things before. Nathan found records suggesting she'd used her wealth and connections to destroy business rivals of her late husband, to intimidate people who crossed her. Loretta Dotson was a predator who'd spent years perfecting her methods. Nathan's phone rang. It was Detective Savage. "Mr. Evans, I wanted to give you a heads up. Mrs. Dotson's lawyers are filing a motion to dismiss. They're claiming the evidence was improperly obtained, that there's no direct proof she knowingly gave Jason poison vitamins, that it could have been a manufacturing defect. They're also going after your friend Victor, claiming he contaminated the evidence. That's bullshit. Victor followed proper procedures. He's a professional. I know. But they're good lawyers, and they're throwing everything at the wall. The judge is sympathetic to their arguments. There's a real chance some of our evidence gets thrown out." After hanging up, Nathan sat in the darkness, rage and frustration warring inside him. The system was failing. Loretta might actually walk free. And even if she didn't, she might get a reduced sentence, might spend a few years in a comfortable minimum security prison before returning to her wealthy lifestyle. That wasn't justice. Jason deserved better. Nicole deserved better. Richard Dotson deserved better. Nathan needed a plan, not just to ensure Loretta went to prison, but to ensure she lost everything: her money, her reputation, her freedom, her connections. Complete and total destruction. He started making notes, his combat medic training kicking in. In the Army, he'd learned to assess situations quickly, identify weaknesses, exploit them. Loretta had weaknesses. He just needed to find them and apply pressure. The next morning, he called Victor. "I need your help with something. Something that might not be strictly legal." Victor was quiet for a moment. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking Loretta's lawyers are going to get evidence thrown out. I'm thinking the justice system isn't equipped to handle someone with the resources. I'm thinking we need to make sure she pays one way or another." "Nathan, be careful. Don't do something that'll land you in prison." "I won't, but I need information. Everything you can find about Loretta's finances, her connections, her past. I need to know who she's paid off, what skeletons are in her closet, where her money comes from." "Can you do that?" "That's That's basically corporate espionage and invasion of privacy. She poisoned my son, Victor. She murdered her husband. She tried to destroy my family. I'm not going to sit back and hope the system works. I'm going to make sure she burns. Another long pause. Then, okay, give me a week. Nathan spent that week being the perfect father and husband. He took Jason to follow-up appointments, all of which confirmed full recovery. He tried to connect with Nicole, who slowly began emerging from her shell of shock. He went to work, saved lives, acted normal. But every night he planned. Victor came through. On January 7th, he called Nathan with a file dump of information that was staggering in its scope. Loretta's finances were complex, hidden behind layers of trusts and corporations, but Victor had unraveled them. The Dodson family wealth came from real estate development, but Richard Dodson had been more than just a legitimate businessman. He'd had ties to organized crime figures, had been involved in money laundering schemes, had destroyed communities with predatory development practices. And Loretta had been right there with him, an equal partner in the corruption. After his death, she'd taken over the business empire, continuing the same practices. She'd bribed officials, destroyed competitors, ruined lives, all while maintaining her facade as a respectable society matron doing charity work. There's more, Victor said. I found evidence she's been blackmailing people. Politicians, business leaders, even a few law enforcement officials. That's how she has so many connections. She's got dirt on everyone. Where's the evidence? Encrypted files on her computer, plus physical documents in a safe deposit box. I've got the account numbers and bank information, but I can't access the actual contents without breaking about 15 different laws. Nathan smiled grimly. Forward me everything. I'll handle it. The preliminary hearing was set for January 15th. Nathan had 10 days to execute his plan. He started with the media. Using information from Victor's research, he anonymously leaked documents to investigative journalists, showing Loretta's connections to organized crime figures, her involvement in money laundering, her history of destroying business rivals. The stories started appearing within days, each one more damaging than the last. Society matron's dark past revealed, Dodson family's criminal empire exposed, poison case defendant linked to mob figures. Loretta's lawyers tried to control the narrative, but there was too much evidence, too many sources. The journalists dug deeper, finding victims of the Dodsons' business practices, people who'd been ruined by their development schemes, families who'd been displaced and destroyed. Nathan then turned to Loretta's blackmail network. He couldn't access the files directly, but he could make them public knowledge. Anonymous tips to the FBI, the state attorney general, the media. Within days, several of Loretta's friends were under investigation. A city councilman resigned. A judge recused himself from all Dodson-related cases. A police captain was suspended. The network that had protected Loretta for years collapsed in on itself as everyone scrambled to cover their own backs. But Nathan wasn't done. He needed one more thing to ensure Loretta's complete destruction. Proof of her guilt so overwhelming that even the best lawyers couldn't defend her. He got it from an unexpected source. On January 12th, 3 days before the hearing, Nicole came to him with a box of old home videos she'd found in the attic. I was looking for something else and found these. They're from when I was a kid, family memories. I thought maybe watching them would help me remember my mother as something other than a monster. Nathan sat with her, watching grainy footage of birthday parties and holidays, seeing young Nicole laughing with her father while Loretta directed everything from behind the camera. It was painful to watch, knowing what Loretta had done to that family. Then he saw something that made him pause. Go back. That last video. It was Christmas, maybe 20 years ago. Nicole was about 12. Richard was healthy and vibrant. The camera work was shaky. Someone else was filming. In the background, barely visible, Loretta stood at the kitchen counter. Her back was to the camera, but she was clearly doing something to a drink, adding something from a small bottle. What is she doing? Nicole whispered. Nathan replayed it in slow motion. Loretta stirring something into Richard's coffee, then turning with a smile, bringing it to him. Richard drinking it, thanking her with a kiss. Do you have more of these videos? From the last few years before he died. They went through hours of footage. And there it was, Over and over, Loretta preparing food and drinks for Richard when she thought no one was watching. Small additions from bottles, careful measurements. In one video from 6 months before Richard's death, she could be seen crushing pills into his dinner. She documented her own crime, never imagining someone would look this closely. "Oh my God," Nicole said, her face pale. "She really did kill him. She killed my father." Nathan copied the videos, had Victor enhance them, isolate the relevant sections. Then he sent them to Detective Savage, the DA, and the cold case unit investigating Richard's death. The preliminary hearing never happened. On January 14th, the DA filed additional charges against Loretta Dodson. First-degree murder of Richard Dodson, based on the video evidence and the re-autopsy results. The attempted poisoning of Jason was upgraded to attempted murder. And the FBI filed federal charges related to the money laundering and corruption. Loretta was arrested again, and this time, there was no bail. She was considered a flight risk and a danger to others. Her assets were frozen, pending investigation into their criminal origins. Her lawyers withdrew, not wanting to be associated with such a toxic case. She was alone, broke, and facing life in prison. Nathan watched the news coverage from his living room. Jason playing on the floor, Nicole curled against his side. The mighty Loretta Dodson, society queen and secret monster, was being led into court in an orange jumpsuit, her perfect hair disheveled, her face pale and drawn. "Is it wrong that I feel nothing?" Nicole whispered. "She's my mother, and I feel nothing but relief that she's locked up." "It's not wrong," Nathan said. "She tried to kill our son. She murdered your father. You're allowed to feel however you want." "How did you do it?" Nicole looked up at him. "How did you get all this evidence?" "The media exposure, the investigation into her finances." Nathan could have lied, but Nicole deserved the truth. "Victor and I dug into her past, found things, made sure the right people saw them. I wasn't going to let the system fail us." Nicole was quiet for a long moment. "Thank you for protecting our family, for making sure she couldn't hurt anyone else." The trial took place in March. With the video evidence, the forensic proof of poisoning, and the testimony of multiple victims of Loretta's crimes, the outcome was never in doubt. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Loretta Dodson was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of Richard Dodson. Additional consecutive sentences for the attempted murder of Jason, for conspiracy, for money laundering, for corruption. She would die in prison. At the sentencing, she finally broke, screaming at the judge that she'd been set up, that Nathan had destroyed her, that none of this was fair. The facade was completely gone, revealing the monster underneath. Nathan sat in the gallery with Nicole and Jason, watching justice being served. It felt earned. Not just because the evidence was overwhelming, but because he'd fought for it, had made sure Loretta couldn't use her wealth and connections to escape consequences. Afterward, outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them. Nathan gave a brief statement. "Justice has been served. Our family can begin to heal. I hope this sends a message that no one, no matter how wealthy or connected, is above the law." Victor, watching from the side, caught Nathan's eye and nodded. They'd done it. Not just through the system, but by making sure the system had everything it needed to work properly. Spring came to Maple Street with blooming trees and warming weather. Jason, fully recovered, was back to his energetic self, playing baseball and driving Nathan crazy with constant questions. Nicole had started therapy, working through the trauma of her mother's betrayal, but she was stronger each day. On a Saturday afternoon in April, Nathan stood in the backyard watching Jason play, Victor beside him. His friend had come down for the weekend, the first real visit since Christmas. "How you holding up?" Victor asked. "Good. Really good, actually. Nicole's healing. Jason doesn't even remember much about that night, thank God. And we're moving forward. No regrets about how we handled things." Nathan considered. They'd broken laws, invaded privacy, manipulated the media. It hadn't been clean or by the book. But Loretta had been stopped completely and permanently. No one else would be hurt by her. No regrets. She made her choices. We made sure she paid for them. What about the money? The Dodson estate. Most of Loretta's assets have been seized by the government, restitution for her crimes. But there had been some legitimate funds, including life insurance from Richard's death, that had gone to Nicole as the sole heir. Nicole had donated it all to organizations that helped victims of domestic violence and child abuse. Blood money, she'd said. I don't want any of it. Now, Nathan and Nicole were talking about moving, starting fresh somewhere without the weight of Loretta's legacy. Jason was young enough that he'd adapt. They could build a new life, free from the shadow of the Dodson name. We're going to be okay, Nathan said. Better than okay. This whole thing is showing me what I'm capable of, what we're capable of as a family. We survived a monster, and we came out stronger. Victor smiled. You always were a stubborn bastard. Loretta picked the wrong family to mess with. Yeah, she did. Later that evening, after Victor had left and Jason was in bed, Nathan sat with Nicole on the back porch. The spring air was cool and sweet, and for the first time in months, Nicole looked truly at peace. I've been thinking, she said, about my father, about the life he had with her. He must have known, on some level, that she was dangerous. But he stayed, maybe because of me, maybe because he was afraid. And she killed him for it. You can't blame yourself for that. I don't. Not anymore. But it makes me realize how lucky we are. Lucky that Victor was there. Lucky that you trusted your instincts. Lucky that we got Jason to the hospital in time. A few more doses and... She couldn't finish the sentence. Nathan pulled her close. But we did get him there. He's fine. And Loretta will never hurt anyone again. Because of you. You made sure of it. We made sure of it. You, me, Victor. We protected our family. Nicole kissed him, and in that moment, Nathan knew they'd be all right. The scars would fade. The memories would lose their sharp edges. They'd rebuild, stronger and more united than ever. Inside the house, Jason called out for water. Nathan went to him, climbing the stairs to his son's room, looking at the boy who'd almost been taken from them. Jason smiled sleepily, took the water, hugged his father tight. Love you, Dad. Love you too, buddy. Sleep well. Walking back downstairs, Nathan passed the photos on the wall, his family, his life, everything that mattered. Loretta had tried to destroy it all, had come terrifyingly close to succeeding. But she'd underestimated him. Underestimated what a father would do to protect a child. That had been her fatal mistake. Nathan rejoined Nicole on the porch, and they sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out over their neighborhood. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new moments to build on. But tonight, they could rest in the knowledge that the nightmare was over. Justice had been served. The monster was caged, and the Evans family, tested by fire, had emerged victorious. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.